Hey, beautiful people. Welcome back to Save Our Sisters Unplugged, where we share real stories to remind you that you are never alone in this journey of life. I'm your host, Norine Fahie, and today I am joined by the beautiful Ingrid Bayer. So, Ingrid Bayer is an Australian entrepreneur, thought leader, and an unapologetic champion for women standing at the crossroads later in life, which I absolutely love. After decades of navigating the pressures of work, family, and the relentless expectations to hold it all together, Ingrid discovered a powerful truth: real transformation often begins when everything starts to fall apart. She's a former legal secretary turned virtual assistance industry pioneer. She has founded her own home-based administration business in 2008, and in 2017, she went on to establish the VA Institute, which is a trailblazing organization that has since supported thousands of women to reclaim control of their careers and lives by building thriving, flexible businesses from home. Her work has helped to reshape the virtual assistance landscape in Australia, advocating for meaningful work that honors women's strengths rather than diminishing them. Everything that I love in a guest. This is Miss Ingrid Bayer. Welcome, Miss Ingrid. How are you?
I am very, very well, and I'm so excited to be joining you, Noreen.
Well, you know what? I have a surprise for you. I wanted to hold it.
Oh, okay. Oh, you've got the book. Oh, how lovely. That is
I've
so
got the
nice.
book. So not only is Miss Ingrid all those things, she's also the author of Not Done Yet. And I love it because I think a lot of women, when they get into their midlife, menopause starts to set in. They're like, you know what? I'm in menopause. I have grandchildren. Count me out. But you're saying, Ingrid, don't do it.
No. Look, do you know it's the awakening for a lot of women, even though we feel like we are slowly being swamped and a lot of us feel like we lose our way, I think, at that stage of our life. In fact, it's something that I'm continually going through. It is a journey. And I think I know we're all on our own path in that
Mhm.
respect. And I do know that we need to look within ourselves to find those answers. So it's been a really interesting point to get to because, like you said in the introduction, I've done so much in my life, and I always thought, wow, well, that's great. I'm going to get to the later stage of my life, or probably I didn't even think about it. And I've got it all sorted. But things just didn't seem to work out that way for me. And I strongly suspect that many people will feel exactly the same. And it's a different season. It's a different season when you get into the midlife life to later life. And something that I don't think a lot of people really talk about because it's almost like we lose our identity and we don't know where to go because our identity is tied up in all that stuff that we've
Yes.
done up until that point. And
Yes.
so it was a real shock for me to actually come through that.
Yes. And I totally agree with everything you say. A lot of women definitely do feel like their identity is tied up in a lot of things, whether it be them being a wife, a mother, children. And then when you get later on in life, now you're retired, you have to rediscover yourself, so there's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts that happens in the midlife.
Mm.
But Ingrid, before we explore your journey, I want to dive into you a little bit. Who is Ingrid beyond the titles, the accomplishments, and the roles that you've carried?
I am, I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl. At the heart of it, inside, there's a little girl who's been there ever since I was, right?
Hmm.
And I think I'm rediscovering myself. That's a really
Okay.
difficult question to answer, and honestly, it's something that I've actually grappled with over certainly the last 12 months. Is who am I? Who am I, and what is my passion, and what do I love? And so, yeah, that answer, I'm coming back to, it's, I say we reinvent ourselves, but I actually think we return to who we originally were. And so who we are, we lost that. There's like a gap in our identity along the way, and that comes about because of the way life unfolds. And then if you're lucky, if you have a lengthy life, you get that opportunity to go back and say, well, actually, who am I? And so I'm very fortunate, and I count myself as being very fortunate for being able to cathartically look at that.
Yeah. I did an episode. It's like, who are you? And that's exactly the same question that I just asked you. It's like,
Yeah.
who are you? And like you said, rediscovery might be the word for the day.
Yeah.
A lot of women, they are in that transition phase where they are rediscovering who they are. What do they like now? You know, what is their identity? What are their next steps? You know, but a lot of times we have to take those steps back and say, you know what is it that I like? It reminds me of, I can't remember the name of the movie. Um, what's the name? Julia Roberts was in it, and she Runaway Bride.
Oh, yes. Yep. I
And you
remember
remember that part of the movie where the guy that she was making, he was telling her off, and she kept leaving everyone at the altar, and he's like, you don't even know how you like your eggs. And so
that.
and so she takes the time out to make every type of egg just so she can see which one she actually likes, because she just goes along with whatever guy she's dating. It's like sometimes we do that, whatever sports team or guy, the guy we're dating is rooting for, we root for that team. If we don't have a dog in the fight, we're gonna go ahead and root for that team.
Yeah.
But she took the time out to really discover, well, what do I really like?
Yeah.
And so that's where a lot of us women were at in the midlife. And now, what age does midlife? Is it 50?
Oh, do you know what? I remember looking at my grandmother, who, when she was my age, and thinking, oh, she's so old. Like, what an old lady. And I'm a grandmother, and I actually feel like I'm still in my 30s. But to answer your question, I really think midlife probably begins when we're in menopause or premenopause. I think probably that's the marker where we start to contemplate, or we start to actually face our own mortality. I think that is actually a wake-up call for a lot of people. So
Yeah.
I think that would be midlife.
I figured when you start talking about, trusts and wills and,
Oh yeah,
irrevocable trust and things of that nature, and what do you call it, high yielding savings accounts, when you start having those types of conversations, you're probably in a midlife at this point.
Yeah, you definitely are.
But you've described the past year as like a deep and cathartic journey of midlife reinvention. What does the word reinvention mean to you now?
Reinvention to me is just stripping away everything that I thought I was, actually, and going back to the rediscovery of who I am. And it really is, like, it was an unexpected thing. Like I said, I didn't expect to be facing this. It was like the universe held a mirror up to my face and said, okay, now you need to actually decide what you're doing, and what are you going to do when you grow up? Like, what a weird question to be faced with when you're an older woman and you think you've got it all together. So reinvention for me was being actually authentic and coming back to my authentic self, and realizing that I actually still had choices, and that I didn't have to shrink into the background like a lot of older women feel. And I mean, that's a societal thing, and I'm absolutely not for that. I absolutely have the passion to let women know that you don't have to shrink.
I love that, because I think a lot of the times we do shrink. We apologize when we walk into rooms. You know, before we speak, oh, I'm sorry, I have a question. We don't need to do any of that. We just need to just stand firm on who we are, as they say, stand on business, and we need to really do that. And I love that. Shrinking is just, it's not for us. It's not for us at all.
No.
And what do you really get out of that? Now you're conforming to what somebody else thinks that you should be. Now you're not even standing as your true self.
Yeah. It's just, for many people, it's a question that they actually don't have an answer to. And I think it's a healthy exercise to go through, again, if you have time. And it's stillness that brings that about. It's the ability to actually stop for a moment and start to really contemplate what got you to where you are, and what were the catalysts in your life that actually brought you to this point, and then really thinking about where you want to go from here.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And now we talked about your journey, and your journey is your surgery, and
Mm.
that part of your life that is very delicate.
Mm.
What can you tell us about that?
Well, that was the most recent catalyst in my life. Okay, so there's certainly been lots of other pivot points, if you like.
Mhm.
And so 12 months ago, I had two surgeries, actually. I had skin cancer on my face, which you can probably just see a tiny little scar there. And
Mm.
I went in and I actually had a general anesthetic. Can you believe it? But it was because they needed to do some um,
Grafting or
whatever.
something?
Yeah, that. I'm not a medical person. And when I came home from that, which was just day surgery, I noticed that my back was really feeling a bit odd.
Mm.
And little did I know, but I actually was a ticking time bomb. My spine was a ticking time bomb. And it eventually, within a couple of weeks, I was nearly unable to walk. And so my spine had a herniation in the bottom part of the spine. And I had to then go and have emergency surgery because the risk was that I was going to be a paraplegic. And that, to
Oh, wow.
anybody who has had a healthy life and been able to do everything, which is kind of what I have been able to do, to be told that you need to do something drastically and urgently is quite a shock and a wake-up call. And so I had no option but to stop. And that was my ability to take some time out. I must admit it was not a welcome opportunity.
Right.
And we're fortunate in Australia where we have free public health when you have emergencies. So I was very fortunate in that I was ambulanced to a hospital which is 2 hours away, which is a major centre. And then I had spinal surgery, which these days is a lot less invasive than it used to be, thank goodness. And, within about 5 days, I was back home and slowly starting to get better. And thankfully, the only leftover feeling I've got from that is just numbness in my leg and numbness in my foot. So, but I'm able to walk, I'm able to do most things, within reason.
Mhm. Right.
But where that took me, apart from the obvious having to get over major surgery twice in the space of a month, or my nose wasn't major, but surgery by all accounts, was that it caused me to really stop and think about my life to that point, and also to be so grateful for the fact that I actually wasn't going to be a paraplegic, that I had an opportunity, if you like. And I also recognized at that point in time that I'd been running on very nearly no cylinders for about 5 years. Pretty much since COVID, I think. I'd been kind of running on nothing. And I had not filled my cup up for a very,
Mm.
very, very long time. And I just decided that I was kind of done with my business, VA Institute. And I'm so fortunate to have had an amazing business partner. And I said, would you like to buy the business from me? Because I think I'm ready to step back. And she said, yeah, let's do
Oh,
it. And so I sold my business. And then I was like, well, what do I do? What do I do? Because I still need to bring some money in. But I want to do things that actually light me up. And not that VA Institute didn't light me up, it's just a different focus now.
right. Something you want to be passionate about.
And something that feeds my soul, like
Yeah.
actually feeds my soul now. I've done that. I've mentored thousands of women, and that's been fantastic. And we won awards and we did all sorts of amazing things, and we helped people reinvent their lives. But where was I in all that? And I realized that I'd lost my way in that whole process. And so that's the authenticity coming back in, and me actually questioning, where am I now? Like, is this right? I think my time is up in this industry, and it's actually okay. It's actually really okay. It was very scary for me to be facing that and thinking that wasn't the plan. I was going to do this until I kind of died in the chair. but it wasn't to be. And you know what? It's just such an amazing opportunity that was handed to me, even though it came through, difficult circumstances. But there is a silver lining to that. And I'm so grateful. I'm really grateful.
I'm glad. And that's a hard thing that you've been through. And who was taking care of you? Was your husband the one that was going to take care of you
Yes.
throughout this surgery?
My husband, the trooper that he is.
Because that's a lot. Because, I mean, people, you don't really think about a whole lot of things with your body until you can't use it.
Correct.
And then you discover, oh my God, I can't do any. And your spine is the part of your body that holds you up.
Yeah. Yep.
So you essentially needed help to do everything.
Yeah. It was really difficult. And we also have, I have to say, I'm unashamedly entrepreneurial. Like, I grew up in a family where it was encouraged. So thanks, Dad, but that's kind of what he's giving me. But we ended up because our kids left, quite a few years ago, and we have a really big home. So we thought, oh, how can we actually, rather than move, why don't we just kind of turn it into an income stream somehow? So we actually turned the front half of our home into an Airbnb.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's a great little income stream. Like, it really is. But so the other thing for me was that if I couldn't do the things that I'd always been able to do, which included making beds and vacuuming and doing the stuff to actually turn over the accommodation, then we were in a pretty bad place, So it was pretty bad for a little breath there.
I could definitely understand how that would just throw a monkey wrench into everything that you have going on, because you're absolutely right. You can't turn over the accommodation if you can't use your back.
Nope. No, not at all.
So when did you realize that you weren't just simply tired or overwhelmed, but genuinely burned out? We talked about that in our private conversation.
Yeah. Look, I'd been saying for a really long time to my business partner, to my husband, to my family, I'm really tired. I'm just really tired. And I'd gone, it's all right. So it's just, I keep saying to myself, this is just a season. I'll get through it. It'll be fine. There's light at the end of the tunnel. But, it never actually happened. And I also realized that I've been pushing it under the rug, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what other people think, but I genuinely think that your body then says, well, you're not listening, so we're going to make you listen. And but I had to listen. I actually had to stop. There is nothing quite like being unable to even lie down in bed properly to make you realize that actually you've been doing the wrong thing to your body, and it's time to actually have a break. It's time to stop.
Yeah.
And so I just, oh, I wasn't happy about it, but I took the rest, and I realized that that's what my body had been craving. Just rest, just time out, just not thinking about work, because it was all encompassing. Like, you go away for a holiday, and here's me with my laptop and my phone, going 10 to the dozen, um, answering questions, making sure I'm available, even though I'm trying to have a break. So it's no wonder. It actually
Yeah,
is
you
no
have to
wonder.
unplug. You have to
And
unplug because, so many of us women become so accustomed to carrying all the responsibilities, and exhaustion starts to feel normal.
mm,
We're like, oh, we'll just power through it. I'll just have a coffee and I'll just go ahead and get it done. Why do you think women sometimes struggle to recognize when they have reached their limit?
look, it's because we come back to identity. We have
That's
slipped
true.
into, many people will slip into the mother. They'll raise their children, they'll be the nurturer, they'll be the prime caregiver in many, many situations. Not that men don't help, but I think we do. Like, we birth our children, we feed them, we nurture them. We are always thinking about our kids, we're always looking out for them, and we put them ahead of us, and that's a natural, and it's an important thing to do. You're bringing your kids up, you want them to have the very, very best, and I absolutely think that that's so critically important. But we do that, and then we're a wife, and then we're a daughter, and then all of a sudden, you're still working, let's say, and then and then you have aging parents. So what do? You're there for your aging parents, and then your kids have children of their own. And so what do? You're there for them because you want them to have your grandchildren to have the best start in life as well. So we put on all these hats, and we do it selflessly. And all the while, we don't say, or we don't think about what do we need in all this. And so we're constantly giving. And that whole analogy about, our cup being empty, it's so true. We don't fill ourselves up. We don't
Yes,
fill
we,
our cup
we
up.
cannot pour from an empty cup
No
at
way.
all. So,
So
what was the emotional recovery like after your surgery, separate from the physical healing?
it looked, do you know what? 12 months on, or 13 months on, it's ongoing. I think the shock was the first bit that you deal with after something like that. And that can take differing periods of time for people to get through. But it's acknowledging that you actually are dealing with shock, because that was I thought, what is this? Like, I'm going through something that I don't even know what this thing is. Nobody can tell me. And so, yeah, the emotional side of it was an unexpected, um, carrying on doing. Like, I couldn't have foreseen that was so big. It definitely made me appreciate coming through, and the emotions being less raw. So actually starting to even out, which I've done. And that's because I've allowed myself the luxury of actually stopping. I think I've continued that. And I did recognize that I needed more time away to focus um, on myself and my healing, my emotional healing. And I went and spent some money and felt guilty about it. But then I thought, no, I'm not going to feel guilty about it. But I went on a retreat, and I went
Oh,
to
that sounds
Bali.
lovely.
Yeah, I went to Bali, and I
That's my
just,
spot.
spur of the moment, took myself away, and then had a week afterwards on my own by the beach in Bali as well. And, that was really, really incredible. And it was a gift that I gave myself. And I've never given myself that sort of a gift before. And so, for anyone who's listening and you are in a place like this, or you're contemplating going on a retreat, for example, I say
Mm-hmm.
do it, because you will never regret it. You will never regret giving yourself the gift of time and an opportunity to just step away from the everyday. It just gives you a whole new perspective. And I think for me, that was the best thing I did. And that's helped me immensely in my healing, without a doubt.
I am certain that Bali would help you through your healing. I just told my husband the other day, I said, listen, I want to go to Bali. I feel like if you're trying to achieve peace, that would be the place to do it.
It is amazing. And I have actually been to Bali once before with a girlfriend, and I was like, yeah, this is good. Been there, done that. And I hadn't contemplated it again, but it was really interesting. I'm going to tell you a little story, okay? Because I was sitting on the plane heading over to Bali and thinking, what am I doing? Like, I'm going on this retreat. I actually don't know the people. I'm doing it on my own. It's all very like, oh,
it's a solo trip.
Solo trip, yeah.
Wow.
And so I was on the plane and I was seated next to this gentleman. And actually I wrote about this in the book. And he as you do, you have a chat and you're talking about why you're going. And he was meeting his family over there, and he was a little bit older than me. and then he said to me, why are you going? And I said, oh, I'm going to a retreat, a healing retreat. And he said to me, after a little bit, we went back to reading our books, and then he kind of tapped me on the arm and he said, is this a Christian retreat? And I said, no, it's actually not. I don't really know. I'm just going to this retreat. It really appealed to me. It's a women's healing retreat. And he said to me, look, I just want to tell you this because I think I need to tell you, is that healing comes from within. And I was like, wow. And I said, thank you. I really, really appreciate you saying that to me. And I really thought about that. And I thought, wow, that was the beginning of the gift, actually. I feel like that was when I started to unwrap this beautiful gift and realize that within me were all the answers that I needed to really, contemplate what I needed and where I needed to be and what I needed to be doing. And it really just set the scene for me. It actually made me pause for a minute and go, wow, okay, that is actually a really powerful statement to make.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Healing does come from within, but it also helps to do it in groups too, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love a good group counseling because it helps you to understand that you're not alone.
Absolutely. And that, the structure of the retreat itself was, of course, it was a small group of women. And that was just so lovely. It was like a really lovely, warm hug.
How many women were there at the retreat?
There was 4 of us and the retreat leader.
Oh, so just 5 people. I don't know why when I think retreat, I think it's like 20 people.
No, absolutely not. And there's so much value in a very small retreat, I think.
Yeah, you can definitely get intimate.
You definitely can. And it was just perfect. So, yeah, great.
What did you guys do on the retreat? I'm just curious.
So, I actually went with no expectations, I have to say, which is probably a really good thing when you're going to something like this.
Yeah. Go with an open mind.
We went up into the highlands, into Ubud, which is, I think it's only about 40 kilometers, but I don't know what that is in miles. Sorry, I can't talk miles.
No, that's okay.
Which in where I live, that'd be like 20 minutes down the road, but it was actually an hour and a half driving up into the hills. And we were in this beautiful rainforest retreat, and every day it wasn't like we were sitting down doing classes or tuition. It was like every day we'd meet for breakfast, we'd have beautiful breakfast, and then there was an activity that we could choose to participate in. Of course, I chose to participate in everything because I'm not going to miss out. And it was things like going to a healer, going to a water temple. What else should we do? We went and made jewelry. I made a ring, which I'm wearing. And,
very nice.
Yeah. And And it was really just then time out. Then we got to swim and relax. And then there was a few extra bits and pieces like massages, all that stuff that you would expect when you go to Bali. So it was a week, but it was very, very, very laid back and very much as you choose to have it run. And I think it was perfect because I couldn't have dealt with anything that was frenetic and, oh, here's the next thing that you got to go to in 25 minutes. I'd be like, no, would have
Yeah,
run a million miles. But yeah, and retreats are different, but that was especially perfect for me.
I love it. And it sounds lovely. It does. I'm going to be looking into Bali. My husband just got his passport. We're excited. We got it renewed. And so it came in the mail. So I've been really pushing this Bali because now your plane seatmate is in my head because I was actually really thinking that I could find peace.
Yeah.
But just the same as healing comes from within, so does peace.
Yeah. The good thing about that too was that, and if anyone's doing a retreat, this is what I would recommend you do. You go do your retreat, but then you don't rush back home. So actually get the full benefit by giving yourself the space to absorb, because a lot of stuff happens, but also stuff happens after you go to a retreat within you, I mean. So I went and booked myself into a beachside resort. I feel like in Australia we call them Nigel no friends. I got Nigel no friends. I'm sitting there on my own, but it was so indulgent. So I'd go and have a really long breakfast by the pool and make a 2-hour breakfast and
And just
read.
kind of like processed everything that you experienced
Yeah.
at the retreat, kind of like a
Yeah.
vacation from the vacation.
Correct. Yeah. Like I was really determined not to rush back and just go back to business as usual. That
Yeah.
was so important.
Well, because you're burnt out, so you have to really baby bird yourself back into everything.
Well, it is, and I've thought about it a lot since, in terms of what you experience when you give yourself that gift, and I call it now an exhale. It's like you've been holding your breath for so long, and all of a sudden you're allowed to go. And it's that beautiful, gentle flow of breath that comes out when you're actually allowed to release. So it was very special.
Yeah, I definitely I definitely like that you actually gave yourself that breather from the retreat. That is so important because when you're reinventing yourself, now you have some tools that you've gotten from the retreat. Now you've had some time to clear your mind. You have to really think about exactly who Ingrid wants to be at this point. What does new Ingrid looks like? Who is she? What is she into? Are people going to like her? Is she going to like herself? You know, or maybe that's just me thinking because I'm in the reinvention space myself.
Well, the beauty, I have to say this, is the beauty of getting a little bit older, and I think taking the time, like we do as we start to get older and start to contemplate our lives a little bit deeper, is that we often don't suffer fools a lot. Like we are quicker, let's say. I think you still have to have some diplomacy there, but we're quicker to call things out when they're not okay anymore. So um, I again, I think it's authenticity, actually. I think it's actually showing up as authenticity in my own life and going, actually, that's not okay. And I'm not going to do that.
Yeah,
And no, I'm not going to tolerate that sort of treatment. And no, I deserve better than that. So it's a surprise when that starts to happen, I think, because it's a symptom of putting yourself first. And the other thing that I actually noticed too after the retreat, and perhaps, well, it definitely would have been happening before, is that when things don't feel right for me, when things happen in my life and it's not okay, my body's, I can feel it in my body now. I
Oh,
can actually
thousand
feel,
percent.
yeah. And so rather than, I think for me in the past, actually, I'm sure I did feel it before, but now I'm like, okay, I get it. That's not okay. And
Yeah.
so it's been really interesting because I've been putting a foot forward here and then going, no, that's not right, taking it back. And I've never felt so indecisive in my whole life. Well, people may look at me and go, what are you doing? You're kind of doing this and then you're doing that. And what's going on? It's because I'm actually feeling my way again.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, reinvention often requires grieving what was. What did you have to release or grieve before you could begin moving forward?
I think the business was the biggest thing. Like
Really?
everything wrapped up in that. My focus was work. My entire life was work. And as much as I said, no, it's not. It actually was. And it's still, for me, it's still a journey of the reinvention is still taking place because I'm still looking at, okay, what am I doing now? And so my rule is that is to say yes to things that actually light me up. So when friends, for example, say, let's go away for a weekend or let's go out for do this. Instead of saying, no, I'm too busy, I will go, if I can do it, I'll go, yeah, absolutely, let's do it. And it may be something that I'm not comfortable with. It may be pushing me out of my comfort zone. But there are times when I'm now saying yes a lot more, obviously saying no to things that don't suit me,
Right.
but really, really stepping into that part of me that I pushed aside for such a long period of time and starting to treasure the time that I've got. And
Mhm.
also surrounding myself with people that I really, really love, really love being around.
I love that for you. I do. And your message is that midlife is not an ending, but an invitation and a turning point. What do
Mm.
you believe women are being invited to discover during this stage of life?
They're being invited to discover that they are not going to shrink, that
Exactly.
that they actually don't have to go with the status quo. I think, society for the most part, it's not anyone's fault. It's just kind of the way things are, especially for women, and it is a gender thing, I think, for women, is that women tend to feel like they just get less and less relevant the older they are. And so my take on it is that we are actually very liberated the older we get. We have a lot more self-confidence, or we have access to more self-confidence. We know what we like. We often have a little bit more money to be able to, a bit more disposable cash, if you like, to be able to channel into things that we want to be doing. I'm not saying you have to spend a lot of money, but I'm just saying that we have choice because we're not so caught up in that raising a family, but buying and building homes and
Right.
those kinds of things. So we're a little bit more flexible, let's say.
Flexible. That's a good
Um,
word.
and I think, it's just coming to that realization that we don't have to do things the way people expect us to do things anymore. And, my mum, who's in her 80s, right? I've always said to her, and maybe it's a fault, but she says things before she thinks about it. And I go, Mum, you actually should not say that.
You should have taken at least 5 seconds before you spoke.
Rewind your mouth, as my daughter once told me. Rewind your mouth. But it's that kind of thing. It's that I'm not saying you should just speak without thinking, but it is that the ability to question, the society, like what's expected of us. We grow up, I don't know about you, but I grew up as a young girl, I was told to behave myself. I had to be a good girl. I had to, listen to authority. And for the most part, that was fine. And that went well. Um, but, then you get to a point where you've learned a lot in your life. You've got stuff to say, and your opinions are actually quite valid, and you shouldn't be suppressed. You should be allowed to have your say and contribute. So, yeah, it's just a different part of life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the the part of life where you really discover yourself the
Mm,
most,
mm,
because now that the nest is empty, you get to look back on your journey as a
mm.
woman. I think I can really go back and pinpoint when womanhood finally clicked in for me. Like when things started to make sense, and when I sat back and said, "Oh my God,
Mm.
I probably shouldn't have done that," or I should have done that differently,
Mm.
or you know what, maybe I should have gave a little more grace. You have this time to just really sit back and reflect on your life.
Mm.
Not saying that your life is over, because you still want to go skydiving, you still want to go bungee jumping. Not me, but some people
Not
might.
me. No more.
Some people might. You still want to do all those things that keeps you alive, like you did traveling. You want to go and have a new experience, or even a shared experience with somebody new, and you did it solo. I did interview a lady that her name is Amanda Black. She does solo travel for women, and so they do all these women only excursions where women just have these shared experiences, and you just meet new people, you try new things. And so at this stage of life, where they call it the midlife, you have the time to just reassess, and then you can just adjust and be who you want to be,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
There is nothing wrong with that. And, I'm also my darling husband, I have to say, he, it's not that he doesn't want, it's not that he's not a traveler. It's just that there's some things that he said to me, you just do that. Like you go off and do that. And I'm so blessed to have
Mm,
that. It's a positive thing for me, because there was times I actually did do another solo trip, I have to tell you about, and that was back in my 40s. So my husband's from Germany, so he migrated when he was 20. You wouldn't know it when you speak to him. He's such an Aussie. It's hilarious. Yeah. More Aussie than me. And he's done a lot of traveling, and we've done a lot of traveling together. And I remember saying to him, I just really want to go to Paris. I've always wanted to go to Paris. And he said, well, go. And so I went, oh, okay. And so I did. I actually went to Paris, and I called it my bra burning tour. And it was like a time where I really just spent, I don't know, it was a different time for me. It wasn't like I was going through anything terrible.
right.
And the kids were still at home, and he just gave me this
This
gift,
opportunity.
a gift.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely a gift.
Yeah. And so I met up with another girl who was from my area, because I live in regional New South Wales in Australia. I live in
Okay.
regional New South Wales. And so quite coincidentally, met another lady, and she said, I'm going too. And so we agreed to meet up. And, it was the best thing ever. So I think travel is actually a really great thing to be doing if you can, and you don't have to go
Yeah.
overseas. You can travel around your own country. Australia is a huge country. We can do a lot of traveling around here, and in the US, of course, massive. You're massive. You could go anywhere and be
Yeah,
experiencing so many different things. But travel just opens you up to so much, and
it
you meet
does.
people. Yeah,
It
it's so
does.
positive.
It definitely opens you up to a lot of new things that you may not have even tried.
Mm.
You can step outside your box, go and experience a new culture, try new food. All these things are things that you can do in your
Yeah.
midlife,
Yep.
that you may not have been able to do when you were a little bit younger, because, like you said before, you're starting a family, new wife, you're laying a foundation, building a business, but now you have time to just really be very intentional about what you
Yeah.
want to do, how you want to show up, who you want to travel with, or just go by yourself. And to
Yeah.
have a husband that just says, you know what, Ingrid, go. have this new experience, drink wine, tell me what the wine tastes like in Italy. What's the pasta like in France? Is the bread really all it's cracked up to be? To
Yeah.
have a partner that's just so supportive, that is truly
Mm.
a gift. It
It
is
is.
truly a
And
gift.
I recognize it's not a common thing. It's, many people would never have that experience because they feel tired. And that's totally appropriate. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have been upset if I couldn't have gone. Like I just took it for what it was worth. But yeah,
Yeah.
travel's great.
I love it. So your book, Not Done Yet, A Journey Back to You.
You've
Where
got
did
it.
those
I've
powerful
got
words come from?
it.
Not done yet.
That really was the outcome of everything I went through, because I thought, I'm going to curl up my tootsies and just sink into oblivion, or what am I going to do? And I went, no, I'm actually not done yet. I'm going to do something else. I didn't know what that other thing would be, but it's just set me on a path and gave me permission, if you like, to start to explore and start to get a little bit creative with what I want this last period of time,
Yeah.
however long that is, to actually do. And yeah, it's great to actually live by that mantra, not done yet. I think you always weigh it up, and yeah, it's opened a lot of doors, to put it that way, and it allowed me to think a little bit outside the square.
Well, as you know, I have my own copy and I've
Yeah.
started reading it and I'm already hooked into it, and I just love how you just started with your experience.
Yeah.
You just came right out the gates. Some people give you a little fluff, they give you a little back history, but you just ripped the Band-Aid off and I just love it. You just talked about how you felt. I just love that. So you described the book as part memoir, part roadmap, and part rallying cry. Which part was the most emotionally difficult for you to write?
The whole book was very emotionally difficult.
Really?
So that is the second go at writing this book. The book you've got is the second iteration, because I wrote it once and then I went, I don't like it. So I went back and I went, actually, I need to be honest and tell it how it is. So what I did was I went, and you would appreciate, because you're starting to read through this actually, is that I started with the major pivot point that got me into this in the first place. And I've gone back through my life and thought, what was it? Like, what were those major forks in the road that had me on this journey in the first place? And it was really, really interesting to revisit everything and to think about what was it that I could see that had contributed to Ingrid today, right?
Right.
It was I had to actually put aside my fear of putting it out there, because that was very challenging. When you're writing something that is truly about who you are, the essence of who you are, it is, you really are wearing your heart on your sleeve.
Yeah.
And the biggest challenge, I think, for me was actually having mum and dad read it.
Ooh.
Because I was so afraid that I handed it to them and I said, I just want you to know that this is my perspective, and I don't want you to read into it any more than that. It's my take on my life.
Right.
And because, they're in my book, they're part of my journey, of course. And having Carl read it, my husband, he read it and he said, I love it. I actually really love it. I love what you've written. It actually is true and it's authentically you. And that was my measure of then success, that I'd actually achieved, that he loved it. And mum and dad came back and said, we are so grateful to have seen life through your eyes. They wouldn't have ever seen it that way had I not written about it. So,
How profound.
Hmm.
For that to be, because sometimes you write a book and you put people in and the first thing they come back with is offense.
Yeah.
But for them to say, you know what, I saw it through your eyes and it's amazing. I love it. I love that for you.
Yeah.
So what do you want? What do you hope a woman says to herself after reading that final page?
I hope she says, I'm not done yet, and I actually have permission to step into something different, or I go with my passion.
I hope that women that are in the midlife would say that they're not done yet. I don't
Yeah.
even know, first of all, when you think about midlife, crisis is the next word that you think
Yeah.
about. Or she's having a midlife crisis. Now, granted, some people might be in crisis,
Hmm.
but some of us, I'm I'm in my 50s. Folks don't know that.
You
They
do.
don't
You
know
look
that.
very young for your 50s, and I
And
think.
they treat me accordingly until I start to speak, and then they hear the wisdom.
Ah.
And I, my mom, I attribute that to my parents. They have great skin. I'm an island girl, so everything was always very natural, very from the earth, which is perfect for who I am today. I'm very holistic,
Hmm.
but as you get older and you start really going through your life and thinking about everything, you know, you tend to just really just want to just sit with everything, you know, and this whole midlife crisis. I don't think that's a thing. I don't think it's a thing. I think there's a crisis. I don't think you have to be in your midlife for it to be an
Yes.
alarm bell. You just know who you are because you've had enough versions of yourself to
Hmm.
compare this version to, and so even when let's say you've gone back and you've talked to other people that maybe you've wronged, or maybe they got a different version of you, you can just say, you know what, that version of me was not a mature person.
Hmm.
This version of me has self-awareness.
Hmm.
I think, you know young people always say, oh, you're so old. Like I have grandchildren and they're like, wow. So my grandson, he's always telling everyone, she's in her 50s.
Oh,
And I'm
thank
like,
you.
why are you telling my business? He's like, but Mimi, like you don't look like an old lady. I'm like, wow, I didn't think I was an old lady, but I'm glad your version of what an old lady looks like, I'm not meeting that criteria.
It's funny, isn't it?
But yeah, you have enough time to just sit back and just be, and just be her, and a lot of women, when you say being her, what does that mean? Being
Mm.
who you are authentically.
Mm.
When the door's closed, when you're by yourself, when you're being vulnerable with yourself, who is she? Is she being truthful to herself? Not
Yeah.
what the world sees. Maybe your husband might see her. He might see her sometimes in a negative way,
Yeah. Yeah.
depending on what that toilet seat is doing, you know.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
But just just to have that moment for yourself where you can just catch your breath and just exhale and just be who you are, you know. I think that's a great thing. I think this is a great time to do it. I think midlife women, 50 is the new 30, you know,
Mm.
let me tell it.
Yeah, absolutely it is. It's so different to what it used to be when I was a little girl. I don't know why the perception for me was so different looking at I was born on my grandmother's 50th birthday. We talked about being Geminis, right?
Oh,
I was born on my
yes.
grandmother's 50th birthday, and I remember looking at her as I got a little bit older, and she died. She was only in her 70s,
Mm.
and she was really old. And I'm 63, and I do not feel old. I
I would
actually,
never guessed that your skin is glowing, you know,
oh, thank you. And
that's that
that,
midlife glow.
I do think that it's one of those things that we can resign ourselves to being old, or we can continue to grow and to evolve. And I think
I think the word old is just subjective.
very subjective, very subjective. Uh,
But as we close, um, what would you say to the woman who knows that something in her life must change, but is afraid to take the first step?
Well, if you know that something needs to change, then I would suggest that you actually start to write a few things down and start to really maybe journal to begin with. Definitely, if you're into reading, I'd love you to read my book, and I'm certainly available to chat if you want to do that. That's absolutely fine. We've got the amazing technology today of Zoom. We can talk like we're almost in the same room, but reach out to other women too in a similar situation. And I think the beauty of being a woman is that we do congregate together, and that we in many situations we are so supportive of each other, and getting that common ground with other women can also be a very healing and nurturing experience. And if you're up for it, go for a retreat, take some time out, get some stillness so you can actually think and think clearly and see ahead and actually exhale. So,
I love it. I love that. That is really good. That is really good. Well, I want to do something with you really quick.
okay.
I want you to complete this sentence.
Okay.
I knew I was finding my way back to myself when.
I exhaled and I realized that I was able to be more than I ever had been.
Now that you're going to have to put that on something and put it on your mirror.
There you go.
I think sometimes we do go through life a little bit, as I tell my husband, a little bit top buttoned up.
Mm.
Sometimes we really got to just unbutton that top button. Just chill out and just exhale and just be who you are. So when people hear your name and remember your story, what do you hope they remember most?
That it's okay to be whoever you are and that you're not done yet.
I love that. I love that. Well, you know what, Miss Ingrid, I really enjoyed this conversation.
Likewise. Thank
Where
you.
can people find you on your socials?
So you can just go straight to the website. That's got all my social links on it. My website is ingridbayer.com. Really easy, my name. I haven't made it complicated.
I'm throwing
And
it at the bottom of the screen.
yep.
And then there's your book website as well.
So if you just go to
And that's
Amazon,
on.
you'll be able to find me by searching Ingrid Bayer, Not Done Yet. And that's
Now, is it on any other platforms other than Amazon?
no, it's actually just on Amazon. I am an Amazon
exclusive.
girl.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just keep it simple.
absolutely.
Well, good. Well, I'm so glad that you had reached out to me, and I'm so glad that we're doing this because, a lot of people after menopause, especially after menopause, like I said before, they do count themselves out. Your body's changing, you're freaking out, you don't know how to do anything. Your body's basically betraying you. It's running itself because sometimes your body does things that you have no control over. Your mood swings, you can't sleep, you're sweating all night, you're waking up. It's like you're not getting any sleep, no one's having any fun. You don't want to do anything. You don't know who this person is, and so when you get a control of her, you can just really relax and just be who you want to be and reinvent yourself. And I like exactly what you said about the women who are afraid. Write things down, step it out. Step 1, get a journal. Step 2, think about who you want to be, write it out. I love that.
Yeah. Find your tribe, actually. Find your tribe.
Find your tribe. Find your tribe. And I'm all about finding my tribe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Literally wrote the book, The Bonds of Sisterhood, a guide to building your tribe.
Yeah.
So if you have not got your copy yet, Miss Ingrid,
I'm getting my copy
put it
now.
in your Amazon basket. I
Yeah.
think it's a really good book. And I love this sisters helping sisters. I think we need to just really do more of that.
Yeah.
We're more alike than we think. We go through different things, but they're same.
Yeah.
Different than the same. And both things can be true.
Absolutely. And it's just so important to, have the gratitude to hold space for other women. And that really is my mission now, is holding space for other women.
And I think that's so important. to hold space for other women so that they know that they're not alone in their journey of life. They know that someone's been through the fire and they've made it out on the other side, and that gives them hope that they can make it too. And that's pretty much exactly what the book is doing. It's telling, you're not done yet. Don't cut yourself out. That's what I'm taking from it.
Yeah.
So when I hear not done yet, that's what I'm taking from it.
Thank you. That's so nice.
Right. Any last words for the audience?
No last words. I just think go and conquer what you have. Just be so grateful. And yeah, I do have last words, obviously, then. Yeah, definitely. You are not others do. You are not done yet, is my last words.
Absolutely not. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. And if you have not subscribed to the Save Our Sisters Unplugged YouTube channel, please hit subscribe, child, so you are kept in the loop of when I go live and when I drop new episodes. And we will talk soon. Peace and blessings.